Welcome to Wonder Girl Tarot. This is your reading for the week of June 15th through the 21st. It's a general reading for anyone who feels called to watch the video, as well as for my returning viewers and subscribers. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer, and welcome to the channel if this is your first time here. I'm so glad to have you here with me today. I have already shuffled the deck and drawn 3 cards. The first is going to represent Monday and Tuesday, the second Wednesday and Thursday, and the third Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've also drawn 2 cards from the Wildwood Tarot, which is like a non-traditional tarot deck, and I'm going to use those for a bit of extra advice at the end of the reading, kind of like an oracle, and I'll read from the book. Before we begin, I always read a poem, and this week I'm reading a Rumi poem called The Core of Masculinity from the Coleman Barks translation. So, the core of masculinity does not derive from being male, nor friendliness from those who console. Your old grandmother says, "Maybe you shouldn't go to school. You look a little pale." Run when you hear that. A father's stern slaps are better. Your bodily soul wants comforting. The severe father wants spiritual clarity. He scolds, but eventually leads you into the open. Pray for a tough instructor to hear and act and stay within you. We have been busy accumulating solace. Make us afraid of how we were. And then right below it, there's a short one. I honor those who try to rid themselves of any lying, who empty the self and have only clear being there. So I'll turn over the cards and perhaps there's a relationship between the poem and the cards. For Monday and Tuesday, we have the 8 of Swords. For Wednesday and Thursday, the High Priestess in the reverse. And for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Magician in the reverse. And under the deck, we have the 10 of Cups. So it's interesting that the poem talks about ridding yourself of any lying, because the 8 of Swords is a card about feeling trapped, and it's a card about feeling trapped when you are actually free. So swords are mental cerebral energy. So it's about being trapped by the things that you think and the things that you believe. And it really has to do with illusions. So I'm thinking that this week we're coming up to another eclipse. We recently had an eclipse in Sagittarius, and we're getting ready to have a new moon eclipse in the sign of Cancer. And so I'm thinking that right now the issues at hand have to do with illusions and about things that need to come to light based on some kind of foundational beliefs that you have that may be faulty in some way. And I'm seeing that we have the High Priestess in the reverse. So in the upright, the High Priestess talks about intuition, deep knowledge and understanding. She holds the scrolls and she places her feet on the moon, and she has that crescent moon on her forehead. And so this is really making me think of the eclipse, because the crescent moon, of course, the new moon is a dark moon that isn't there at all, but I always think of crescent moons as being new moons in a visual portrayal. So somehow your understanding and intuition about something may be blocked, and that means that you have the Reverse cards, it can sometimes be the opposite, but it can also be when you have the potential to have this feeling of deep knowing and understanding, but there's something that's getting in the way. And I'm thinking that what's getting in the way is something that you've been believing or telling yourself over and over again that's making it difficult for you to be free or to move forward freely. And then that continues with the Magician in the reverse. So actually, the Magician is the number 1 in the major arcana. It starts with the Fool, and then it goes to the Magician, and then it goes to the High Priestess. So the Magician has to do with being able to feel powerful and to create whatever you want. So it's the High Priestess is an internal energy, and the Magician is the external energy. It's about going out into the world and making things happen. He has the 4 elements: the sword, the cup, the pentacle, and the wand are all on the table in front of him. And so it's about having all the different elements of the world kind of at your fingertips, that you can go out and make things happen. In the reverse, this is feeling like you don't have what it takes to make things happen. And as with the High Priestess, I think it's related to this 8 of Swords energy, where you're feeling trapped by your own thoughts. So you actually do have the capacity to know what you know and to create what you want to create. But there's something that's getting in the way, and it has to do with your thoughts and what you're thinking. And maybe what you've thought and believed for a long time. And I'm thinking that what it is that you want to create, and perhaps what you deeply long for, has something to do with this 10 of Cups. The 10 of Cups is the emotional happiness, the highest form of happiness. And it usually shows a family, like a mother and father and children and a rainbow. And in this depiction, it's 2 people with their arms entwined around a single cup. And I'm thinking that it has to do with shared happiness. And yeah, the joy that you feel when you can share your joy with other people, compared to this 8 of Swords, which is really a solitary figure who's kind of kept apart and kept alone by some fears and illusions. So I think you're longing to connect, and yet there's something that you believe that's keeping you apart. And this can be apart from the people who are close to you in your life, your family and friends, or the people that you love. And it can also be feeling disconnected from the world in a larger sense. When you look out into the world and you see like those people who are different than me, and you feel that sense of disconnect and separateness and maybe judgment, or even when you look at yourself with a kind of critical gaze, and you're not able to then feel the way in which you're connected to the world and to your own soul and your own higher mind. So I'm going to turn over these cards. We have the Blasted Oak and the Queen of Vessels. So the Blasted Oak in this deck, they say it's kind of like a combination of the Hanged Man and the Tower. So this guy has been hanging from a tree, and then lightning has struck it, and it's being and he's falling. It's like he's been cut down by something that's come swooping in from outside. And then the Queen of Vessels, the salmon, is like the Queen of Cups in regular tarot. So a loving and nurturing person. And I'm thinking like the eclipse that we're about to have is in the sign of Cancer, which traditionally has to do with home and family and country. And the Ten of Cups is sort of like the happy family card and belonging and being part of things. And so it seems like this week there may be something like what's on the table has to do with what you belong to, what you love, and what's keeping you from the things that you love and from a sense of belonging. But I'll read from the book as well. So, the blasted oak, they say, the universe has the power to create, so it also has the power to destroy. The sudden catabolic power of natural catastrophe and disaster is almost unimaginable. With a sideways flick of its tail, the hurricane can uproot a bridge, just as a shudder in the earth's crust can reduce whole cities to rubble and send tidal shock waves around the world. On the human level, we build our seemingly indestructible edifices of theory, technical endeavor, and civilization, believing they are immovable and eternal. We wrap ourselves in the trappings of power and position, but in the end we own nothing. We only borrow for the time we are here. All we truly have is what we have learned. This image combines two of the traditional tarot cards, the Hanged Man and the Tower. Here the great forest oak is shattered by the power of the storm. For those who have climbed the tree and lashed themselves to a branch, the fall may be long. So too the arrogance and pretension of material life may be torn apart by a single act of nature or fate. But the fire that blasts the limb also burns the bonds that have held us in a position of false security. Just as the hanged man is caught in a state of divine sacrifice and linked to the threefold death, here in the blasted oak, the tree itself is shaken and scarred. Likewise, the tower is shattered by the storm, and believing in the illusion of material power can only end in spiritual isolation, stagnation, and collapse. But even as we fall, the power that floods our senses with pain also cleanses and burns away the illusion and falsehood. As our hands reach for the stable earth, the power grounds itself through us. Our senses are alive with the heat of life. Our emotions are ablaze with passion. Perhaps we have forgotten the intensity of desire, the need to keep struggling for understanding. The essence of true strength and enduring spirit cannot be bought with gold or position or grandiose esoteric theory. It is found in the ashes and flames of nature's own wild card. And then the reading points are, what appears to be a random dissolution or destruction of your beliefs and relationships is timely and natural. The sea swallows what we have built on shifting sand, and you are liberated from being a powerless victim. Now you have a base on which your inner strength can adapt and evolve. This may happen suddenly with shocking speed. The trauma may leave you stunned and confused, but the fiery blast that sent you falling to earth has also jolted you from a state of trance that allowed you to avoid dealing with profound and fundamental issues. Don't be angry or bitter at this passing, for whatever has gone never really belonged to you. Be patient, wait, and learn from the process of loss. So it may be that something big is happening in your life, in your personal life, but you can also see how a lot of things that are going on in the world right now have this energy of the blasted oak, of things having to change really drastically and dramatically in ways that can bring up a lot of fear and anxiety but may ultimately be setting us free from something that wasn't sustainable. And I'm thinking about the poem, how it advises us to pray for a tough instructor to hear and act and stay within us, and that we have been accumulating solace, and we should pray to be made afraid of how we were. So maybe there's some things that you've been doing or ways that you've been thinking, and it's easy to see as a society how a lot of the ways that we've been acting and behaving and thinking are unsustainable, and that may be true also in your own life, and they've actually been keeping you trapped and stuck and anxious. And if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling disconnected from your intuition, or trapped and unable to act, it's not that that's actually the case, but it could be that something about the things that are happening this week or in this time period are putting a magnifying glass on what's unsustainable and what needs to be cut out, like the ways in which you need to free yourself, or that you are being freed by external circumstances in ways that might make you feel really uncomfortable. But it's ultimately going to help you to move towards the things that you really value, and to allow you to become happier and more connected. And I'm thinking that the reason, so I only wanted one card from this deck, but two came out, and I'm thinking that the reason why we got the Queen of Vessels as well, which is the Queen of Cups, is because in this energy of like change and tumultuousness, where we're having to learn new ways of being, and where life may feel like a harsh teacher, the other energy that we need is one of love and compassion for ourselves and for other people. And I'll read what they say about the Queen of Vessels, because I'm also thinking that, like I said, the eclipse is in Cancer, which is like home and family and country. So you may be reevaluating what makes you happy, what makes you feel at home, what patriotism means even. And I'm thinking about the way that salmon swim back to their home to hatch new eggs or whatever. And so the meaning in the book is sacred in most shamanic systems for many reasons. The salmon's ability to swim upstream to its birthplace, here we go, and spawn is one of its most remarkable feats. The journey leaves the salmon exhausted, and most die in the attempt. Thus they represent self-sacrifice and wisdom. Salmon were said to swim in pools overhung by hazel trees, and to eat the nuts of wisdom that fell in autumn. Deeply caring and kind, the Queen's spirit draws upon the great honesty, generosity, and self-sacrifice which she sees in you. She brings joy to the darkest places and addresses the most difficult problems with grace and civility. So it seems like this week may see you going through some kind of deep inner challenge or struggle, but you may need to practice having grace and civility with yourself and with the people in your life who also may be being quite challenging, and that kind of patience is going to help you in this challenging time. And it's all leading us towards a greater sense of wisdom and healing in some way, because it looks like we may need to be quite patient with ourselves, because there's this feeling of stuckness and maybe illusions and fears that are kind of at play right now, in a sense of unsteadiness and not feeling connected to our intuition. But and that anxiety may come up because what's at stake is our sense of happiness and well-being and connection to other people, and even connection to our own countries or our own world in the larger sense. So yeah, we may need to practice patience and love along with discernment and the desire to get real and cut through illusions, and practice and maybe there's something also, like something destructive in your life that needs to be cut out, and you may need to be quite firm with yourself. And that's where that poem comes in, that maybe actually the greatest form of love may seem harsh or overly firm and strict, but it will ultimately free you. So I hope this is a good week for you. I hope it's not too challenging, and never let a tarot reading scare you or make you feel worried, because it's meant to liberate and console, really. So yeah, let me know how it goes, and take very good care of yourselves. Be well, and I'll be back with a video like this next Sunday. Bye bye.